All right, we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 26th of November, 2025. Flyers Daily, as usual, presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. How about the Flyers and the Florida Panthers again? This is, I feel like they've played Florida a ton this year because they've played them more than they've played any other team. Of course, they opened up the season with a 2-1 loss in Florida. Then they played the Panthers for the home opener back on October 13th. Flyers got a 5-2 win. And tonight, it's the Flyers and the Panthers in Sunrise, Florida. Now, where are the Panthers in the standings? We know they're missing key players like Barkov, like Kachuk, and they're a team that's played more hockey the last 3 years than anybody. But right now, they come in sitting in the 6th spot of the Atlantic Division. Through 22 games, a record of 12-9-1, 25 points. They're tied with the Canadiens in points, but they've played one more game than Montreal. They are +2 in goal differential, and only one of two teams in the entire Atlantic Division that are on the plus side. The other one was the opponent the Flyers saw 2 nights ago in the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are +9 in goal differential. And the Panthers are 6-4 in their last 10. How are they on home ice? 8-3-1. And the Flyers come into this game also sitting in the 6th spot of the Metropolitan Division, but 21 games played, a record of 11-7-3, same amount of points, 25 as the Panthers. Flyers have played one less game. Flyers are 5-3-2 in their last 10, and they are 3-4-1 on the road this season. So it'll be the Flyers and the Panthers tonight. Who is leading the way for the Panthers? Who's getting the job done? Well, we know Bobrovsky is getting the job done between the pipes. He's been good for this team. He's got 10 wins, 6 losses, a 2.8 goals against average, and an 887 save percentage. That's not a great save percentage. Matter of fact, Tarasov has got a 913 in 7 games. But Bob, one of those guys that can just take over a game. He's got a recent shutout. So you know when you face Florida that Bob can be a guy that just absolutely frustrates you. In his last outing, he actually lost 6-3. He did have a shutout against the New Jersey Devils, though, on Thursday the 20th, a 1-0 shutout. So not great numbers for Bobrovsky, but we know how dominant he can be, and he's been good against the Flyers. Leading the way in points is the 37-year-old or 38-year-old Brad Marchand. Through 21 games, he's got 13 goals. How about that? 12 assists, 25 points. And he has got 2 on the power play, 6 power play assists. Shooting percentage is off the charts, 21.7%. 22 games played for Sam Reinhart. He's got 13-8 for 21 points. And Anton Lundell, 6 goals for the Florida Panthers. So those are the statistical leaders when it comes to taking on the Panthers. And the Flyers will be there tonight trying to get a couple of points out of game 2 of this road trip that will send them coming up on Black Friday to the island to take on the New York Islanders, and then on Saturday to the Prudential Center for a rematch within a week, basically, against the New Jersey Devils, who they beat at home 6-3. So really busy week of hockey. I imagine we'll see Dan Vladar in net tonight for the Flyers, and then we'll see how Rick Tocchet decides to split the duties in the back-to-back this weekend with the Friday-Saturday game. But I imagine it'll be Vladar getting the go tonight against the Florida Panthers. Now, what are Vladar's numbers this season? He has been obviously very good for the Flyers. He's kind of grabbed the goaltending con at this point. Through 13 games that he has played in, he's got a record of 8-4-1, a 2.42 goals against average, and a lofty 912 save percentage. That save percentage at 912, it looks high. It's even higher than it looks because, number one, he's tops in the NHL in save percentage against high danger chances. And number two, average save percentage is no longer in that 910, 908 range. It's below 900, about 894, I believe, right now is league average save percentage. So he is way above that. He's been fantastic for this Flyers team. And I thought he was, in his last game against the Devils, I thought he was phenomenal in that game in particular. Yeah, he gave up 3 goals in that game, but he made some unbelievable saves. I thought it was perhaps his best performance of the season. So be cool to see Vladar versus Bobrovsky tonight as the Flyers, if Bobrovsky goes tonight, and I'm assuming Sorokin will go on Friday for the Islanders, It'd be 3 really good Russian goaltenders in a row. You saw Vasilevsky get the shutout against the Flyers on Monday. First time they've been shut out all season. Bobrovsky tonight, and then Ilya Sorokin coming up on Friday. Really, really strong goaltending that you're going against. So what do you want to do? You want to crowd that net, make it difficult for them to play their position, take their sight lines away, make them have to move and fight for, room to make saves. Bobrovsky, very different from Vasilevsky, and both very different from Sorokin, but all very capable Russian netminders. Now, Flyers are 21 games into the season. I guess it's kind of the official quarter pole of the season. Through 21 last year, Flyers were 9-10-2. So it's at 20 points in their first 21 games. So just below a point per game average. They had 60 goals for, 73 goals allowed. So they were negative 13 goals in goal differential at this point last year. That's a big difference. And then this year, through 21 games, they're 11-7-3. That's 25 points that they have right now. They have 60 goals for, so the same exact number of goals for, but they have 59 goals against. They're +1 in goal differential. I mean, that's a 14-goal difference in year to year. Now, one of the big things I talked about in the beginning of the season for the Flyers to be a successful team this year, they would have to shave off 41 goals year to year, a half a goal a game. They're above that now. They've shaved off 14 in goal differential year to year, and they have the same exact amount scored, and they're on pace to keep more goals out than the 41, a half a goal less per game that I said they needed. So can they sustain that? We'll see. To me, that is one of those things that could be sustainable. You're going to have injuries at some point, how you overcome that. And as guys step in, does the goaltending hold up? Does it get better? If it has a regression for a period of time, how long is that regression? And how much do you get touched up for that regression? Those are all key factors. But I think they're in position to achieve that, a half a goal less per game. When it comes to the power play, the Flyers have 10 power play goals this season on 58 opportunities. Last year at this time, they had 12 on 68 opportunities. So roughly around the same mark. Well, the power play hasn't been cashing in of late, but I think we can use our eyes here and go, yeah, the power play is much better this year than it was last year. Much better. It hasn't been wildly more successful yet, but it is clearly a much better power play. And they will much more outperform where they were a year ago. Now, they did it too shorthanded, gave up 2 shorthanded goals last year. They've given up 2 this year. Last year, they scored a shorthanded goal. They've yet to score a shorthanded goal this year. We had the power kill a couple of years ago. We haven't seen that. We saw it a little bit last year, but not to the degree it was the year prior. And we have yet to see it this year, although they have been a very, very good team on the power play all season long. So we're a quarter in, and we're getting to a decent sample size now. We're starting to recognize some of the attributes that they do have, some attributes that they don't have that they need to find. That's more consistent offense, in my opinion, defending less. Although I think they have been defending less, even in the Tampa game. I thought they defended less, despite the fact that they lost the game 3-0. And Vasilevsky was great in the game. Flyers didn't finish, but it wasn't because they were defending the whole game. I think sometimes you see the score and you make the assumption that, well, Tampa Bay had the only goals on the board, so they must have kind of dominated the play. I don't think that's the case. So when I look at it, I don't look at a team of late that has defended less. Now, they obviously made the change. In their offensive forecheck, they're being much more aggressive, moving away most of the time from the 1-2-2 to the 2-1-2, and that should help. They've also, it seems to me, I don't know if this is part of the progression or the implementation of the system by Rick Tocchet and the coaching staff, but they seem to be defending their blue line a lot stronger than they were earlier in the season. That is preventing the opposition from getting into the zone, and that is also preventing the opposition from getting in and being able to get set up right away. If they do obtain the zone, the Flyers are trying to kill plays faster. Now, when you do that, that also is going to come with a little bit of risk, because if you want to kill plays faster, you do have to kind of yo-yo your structure a little bit to come out of the tightness of it and attack a player, but you want to do it situationally when that player is vulnerable to turn the puck over, or for you to force that puck into a situation where now it becomes a 50-50 battle. When a player gets a pass and he's on a backhand, or it's not a crisp pass and he's trying to gather, that's when you attack. You're not going to attack a player when he's there, full control, set up. And obviously certain players you do want to attack and other players you don't. Well, a guy like Nikita Kucherov's a great example, which is how he hurt the Flyers on the first goal that Tampa scored, when you are redundant in coverage and he's already in a set and stationary position and has evaluated all of his options. When you come and double team him in that spot, he's going to be able to pass out of it or spin out of it and make a play. And now you're going to have the redundancy in coverage and open ice and open opportunities for the other four players on the ice. That when he draws that extra coverage, that's the advantage that he gets. So you have to be careful who you're attacking, when you're attacking, and you have to find a time when they're vulnerable. But if you can do that, now you kill a play, you transfer possession, you become the team that possesses the puck, you go on offense, even though you're in your defensive zone, and you kill that play. So now you're defending less time and you're attacking more time. Then your puck possession levels go up with all of that as well. It means you're controlling the game a little bit more. That's what we talked about this about a week and a half ago here on the pod. The team was just defending too much. They didn't have control of the object of the game, the puck, enough. That's something that they have improved on over the last week or so, but that needs to continue. That probably needs to go another step even further for them to become a team that can consistently get outcomes like they've gotten. The way they've gotten outcomes so far, to the tune of that 11-7-3 record, is the way they've done it so far through a quarter of the season, for the most part. Like, take the Devil game out of there and some other ones, the 5-2 win over Florida on October 13th included. But the one-goal games, the overtimes, the shootout games, that won't be sustainable long-term. You won't be able to sustain, a 625, 650 points percentage by doing that all season. It's just too tight. The margins are too thin. So that's something that, as they have to keep evolving, and we'll see if they're able to do that. I mean, the other thing too is how will, because invariably it always comes into the equation, how will injuries affect the team? We saw Sam Ersson go out. There was an effect there. We've seen some other guys go out. Tyson Forster missed a little time with taking that puck off the foot. Who comes into the lineup in those situations? Is it Grabenkin? Or is it time that if a winger in the top 6 or top 9 goes out, that a guy like Alex Bump comes up because he's playing extremely well? Those will all be part of it. Also, as we're at this quarter pole and kind of doing a 30,000 feet assessment, and also a kind of a macro and a micro assessment of the whole thing. I want to get to some of the YouTube comments from yesterday's show. We recapped the game. We talked about the Flyers game versus the Lightning. And this, I kind of see this trend that it's not a trend. It happens in sports in our world today, especially when we have this instant ability to put out an opinion on the game, on a particular game, and make sweeping judgments based on the recency bias of a game that just happened. Now, sometimes I think we see this happen more to the negative side than we do the positive. But it's true. There's a lot of times we see a game like the game against Tampa where they get shut out 3-0, and you kind of throw everything else that's happened this year away, and you make these judgments about the team, the rebuild, and everything else. Very definitive statement judgments about it based on that game that just happened. Now, sports like hockey, basketball, baseball, the season is a marathon. These are 82-game seasons in basketball and hockey, soon to be 84. One game in there, like the game against Tampa where they got shut out for the first time of 21 games, isn't the definitive explanation of exactly what the team is. They are a team that has been very resilient. They faced a Tampa team that was diminished, that was missing some key players, but still playing very well. And we make these sweeping judgments based on this. And you see it also when people are discussing, the rebuild, that just because the rebuild shifted from the phase of tearing down, trading pieces away, subtraction, to now a position of addition, doesn't mean it's over. They're still, when the team is going to be a legitimate type contender, if that is the case, there's still minimum 35% of the roster that turns over between now and then over the next period of this rebuild, this stage. We talked about it in yesterday's episode. You have Bump, you have Barkey, you have Gurbankin, you have others coming up, Martone coming into the organization. In a few years, Nesbitt, you have some other players coming through, whether that's on Spencer Gill on the back end and others, and how they're going to fit into this equation. So this isn't not a defined, finished, refined product that it's going to be. It's going to take time. And you got to see how guys like Van Sagi and other round picks develop. So you look at this and you go, okay, it's not finished. This is going to take time and tweaking. Connor McDavid was in the league for a decade before they became a team that could win multiple rounds of the playoffs and get to 2 straight Stanley Cup finals. It took a lot of filling the other pieces around it to figure out what worked and how they could become a team that could have success in the playoffs. Same thing for Toronto. Ultimately, it hasn't gotten there for Toronto. And they may not make the playoffs this year with some of the injuries that they're dealing with and the losses and the flaws of that roster. So it's not just hey, you do this rebuild, you go from stage A to stage B, and that's what you are. It's not the way it'll ever work. There's constant evolution, constant management, constant development, improvements, tweaking that's going to take place. But let's get to some of the comments from the YouTube from yesterday. Lawrence said puck possession was mostly the reason they lost or lack thereof against Tampa. I totally disagree. I didn't think Tampa owned the puck in that game at all. Tampa got 18 shots to the net. I didn't think they had a ton of high danger. They had 6 maybe, but it was 6 of 18 that they got there. But it wasn't like Tampa held onto the puck and controlled the puck that entire game. So I don't agree with that with Lawrence. He said Urson was good, can't fault him. I do agree with that. He said every time the Flyers touched the puck, there was a Lightning guy on him. I don't agree. That I didn't see that in the game. I thought that they had some time to make plays. The only time that I thought their time and space was really taken away is when they were in the offensive zone and they got the puck to the middle. He said, hope for better play next game. We agree on that. And he said, congrats on being C-free. Watch you drop the puck the other night. Happy you're doing better. Thank you. I just don't agree that the puck possession was the big element of that game. Solar Warden says, I wish the Flyers would de-anchor Mishkov from the Coots line. Coots is obviously the defensive offset, but you need a playmaking or creative players to play with Mishkov. He's been tied to Couturier most of the year, and it's brutal to watch. I wish they'd swap him back on the line with Zegras. Yeah, you'll give up some goals, but they look good when they played together, better than with Coots, that's for sure. And I'm not a fan of how Tocchet manages the lines and ice time. Also, why is D'Lo constantly playing instead of Nikita? Look, a lot of times that Delorier has played, they've won. Coaches don't like to change that. But again, you and I agree, Solar Warden, that they got to figure out what the heck they're doing with Gurbankin. He's got to play. As far as managing the ice time, again, when it comes to the ice time allocation for Mishkov, he does not kill penalties. He's going to lose 2 to 2.5 minutes of ice time because he is not a penalty killer. And in the game, like against the Tampa Bay Lightning, Flyers had 1 power play. It was 34 seconds long. So there's no makeup there for it as well. He's not going to be a guy that you're going to play 22 minutes a night. That's just not the way I think you get the most from him. Maybe at some point in his career, but here early in his career, I don't think that's the best thing for him. You're putting him in a position to take on water when you don't need to. I think you find your strategic places to play him. As far as playing with Couturier, it's weird because last year at the end of the year, after John Tortorella was fired, Brad Shaw put him with Couturier, and they had a ton of success. This year it hasn't reworked or whatever you want to call it. I don't love the idea of him with Zegras. Is Zegras playing wing or is he playing the middle? I think we look at creative players and assume that creative players can play with each other because they're creative. But a lot of times a creative player needs to play with a structured player. Too much creativity on a line creates a messy painting. There's just too much creativity there. And there's not enough predictability for the creative player to find him, if that makes sense. But, hey, this team goes through periods where they struggle to score. So I'm up for trying anything. But coming off a game against the Devils where the line with Couturier, Mishkov, and Brink scored a couple of goals. Couturier assisted on the breakaway to Mishkov. Couturier assisted on the play to Brink where he scored. And then also the other line had a couple of goals with Forster. And the other line had a couple of goals. So that was a really balanced attack. And we talked about it yesterday, too. Flyers are one of two teams in the NHL that has 8 players with 5 goals or more. A very balanced attack, whether it's Cates, whether it's Tyson Forster or Owen Tippett, Travis Konechny. I mean, you have a lot of players that are able to put the puck in the net. That's part of it also, being a potent team. They're not offensively potent yet. They need to get better at that. But we'll see where it goes. Let's get to this one. Why is it that the Flyers, this comes from John, he says, why fewer shots when Sam is in net? Same amount of high-quality shots against, but fewer in total. Is it a goalie puck handling thing? No, I don't think that has anything to do with it. He said the team should play the same way no matter who is in net. Sometimes that's just, it has been, Sam has had some really low shot total games. I think it's just a small sample size. It's kind of just happenstance. I don't think they're doing anything differently. The opponent's been different. Sometimes the games are different. Vladar played against the Devils. He saw a ton in that game, but there's been games where he's only seen 18 or 21 shots also. So we'll see when we get a bigger sample size if that continues to be part of the case. D. Cesare, I hope I said that right. He said, Jason, supposing Quinn Hughes is available, who would you be willing to give up for him? And he lists a bunch of players. I will tell you this, D. Cesare. Since he fills an area that is very difficult to get, a top-line young defenseman that creates offense, is a great power play player, is a good leader. I mean, he's the captain of the Vancouver Canucks. I would overpay because that's what it will take. Now, there is obviously a tipping point, but I would pay a lot because players like that are hard to get, and they are not available via trade very often. So I am willing to go far. I am willing to give up more than I would perhaps have to ensure that you get him. And I know his contract's up in a year and a half. First of all, if I make a deal that I'm going to get him, I'm getting assurances that I'm probably going to be able to re-sign him through his agent and back channels the way they do. And I'm going to pay him because I want to have a player that I got to pay huge money to, because that player is a difference maker. And the addition of a player like that, what it does in the slotting for everybody is puts them all in a better position to be even more successful. Now, all of a sudden, you're asking other players to go down a step in the ladder of expectation and what they have to do because you have a guy that moves right to the top of the ladder. So I'd be willing to go very far, very far. All right, that's going to put a wrap on this episode. We'll be back tomorrow for Thanksgiving as the Flyers will take on the Florida Panthers tonight. We will have an episode for you tomorrow. I'm not taking any days off this year. None. I missed enough last year. So join us then. We'll break down Flyers, Panthers, and much more. Join us then on a brand new Flyers Daily.